The first form of fast food was not in a restaurant, but rather a vending machine. The Horn and Hardart was a bulky coin-operated vending machine that was the first of its kind. It is recognized as the founding father of fast food. The swiftness of the Horn and Hardart was crucial to city workers who were given less and less time for a lunch break in the chaotic environment of New York. With no waiters to tip and prices for most dishes at 5 or 10 cents, the automats held economic appeal for working class and prudent diners. And unlike the high-end dining rooms that had dominated the American culinary scene, the automats were simple and allowed everyday New Yorkers to partake in the dining experience. The quick service of meals was revolutionary, and it paved the way for future chain restaurants to exist. Eventually, the first modern form of fast food chains was created in 1921 in Wichita, Kansas, when Edgar Waldo Ingram created his restaurant White Castle. Ingram opened the first White Castle with just $700 to his name. White Castle started to sell mini hamburgers known as sliders for just 5 cents. The miniature burgers created the first fast food burger food chain. By the end of the decade, the company had restaurants in most major Midwest cities, as well as several in the Mid-Atlantic region, including New York and New Jersey. This innovative way of marketing hamburgers inspired two brothers from San Bernardino, California, by the name of Dick and Maurice McDonald. The first McDonald's was a barbecue restaurant on Route 66 that opened in 1940. Eventually, the McDonald brothers realized that their hamburgers were creating the most revenue for the company, and they simplified the menu by just having burgers, french fries, and milkshakes. This tactic allowed for their own system for maximizing their time when cooking. The brothers created the Speedy Service System, which embodied what fast food was becoming. The brothers sold their burgers for 15 cents, which happened to be half of what the average hamburger cost at the time. With success, the brothers franchised their enterprise and had 8 restaurants opened by the early 50s.
With the increased popularity of fast food over the years, since the first White Castle opened in 1921, fast food has reflected society in a number of ways. The creation of the automobile sparked the popularity of curb service, where an employee gives food straight to customers waiting outside in their car, in addition to the creation of drive-through windows in the 1940s. In 1951, Merriam-Webster included the term fast food for the first time, and with the rise of family values and suburbanization during this time, fast food restaurants began including children's menus and began advertising for children and the family. During this time, mass amounts of fast food restaurants opened from coast to coast and became a fun and affordable way for the family to eat out together in the growing age of family values. To further reflect this societal change, McDonald's debuted their first playground in 1972, again aimed at attracting children. Fast food consumption continued to increase in the decades to follow, as advertising efforts increased to coincide with the increased popularity of the TV. As more fast food restaurants open each year, they become more accessible and convenient to get a quick meal. Today, there are over 50,000 fast food chains in the United States alone. Fast food menus today have changed to coincide with more recent changes. For example, some restaurants have embraced ethnic food trends and incorporated foods such as tacos and fried rice in their menus. In response to the food movement that rose across the country in the early 2000s with works such as the Fast Food Nation novel published in 2001 and Morgan Spurlock's Super Size Me documentary of 2004, fast food restaurants began incorporating more healthy choices such as salads and yogurt. Once this movement spread, however, the fast food industry took a hit, especially in the middle to upper class. Because in today's society, healthy food choices such as organic food are much more expensive than fast food, poor families where both parents work often do not have the time or money to provide good, healthy meals. And since over 23 million low-income Americans live in an area without a nearby supermarket, fast food chains are targeting African Americans, Latinos, and the poor. It is no surprise that low-income communities have more available fast food restaurants, in particular near schools. In addition, children living below the federal household poverty level have an obesity rate 2.7 times higher than children living in household levels that exceed 400% of the federal poverty line, reflecting the changing demographic of the fast food industry in today's society.
In recent years, the food and beverage industry in the U.S. has viewed children and adolescents as a major market force. As a result, children and adolescents are now the target of intense and specialized food marketing and advertising efforts. Food marketers are interested in youth as consumers because of their spending power, their purchasing influence, and as a future adult consumer. Multiple techniques and channels are used to reach youth, beginning when they are toddlers, to influence food product purchase behavior. These food marketing channels include television advertising, in-school marketing, product placements, kids clubs, the internet, toys, and products with brand logos, and youth-targeted promotions such as cross-selling and tie-ins. Foods marketed to children are predominantly high in sugar and fat, and as such are inconsistent with national dietary recommendations. Fast food companies can drive traffic through collectibles, particularly those that kids enjoy. These fast food marketing strategies ensure people to come back until they have all the collectibles. By creating these strategies, fast food industries are able to keep consumers coming back for more food and more advertising toys. A major development for advertising was the idea of supersizing meals. In 1970, David Wallerstein brought the idea to McDonald's as a scheme to make more people buy the company's food. This eventually led to the advertising of the value menu, which included fries, a soft drink, along with a burger for a cheaper price than buying each separately. The idea of selling larger portions is a credit to McDonald's, and companies have been mimicking the tactic ever since. Advertising plays a large role in the success of a company and the food they sell. Due to the successful marketing and advertising of food, these fast food companies have hit the jackpot in the later decades.
Today, fast food restaurants feed over 50 million Americans each day and generate sales of over $100 billion annually. Among 19 to 39-year-olds, fast food consumption has more than doubled since the 1970s, as fast food has completely changed American society. As previously stated, fast food began to become popular in the 1950s. In 1950, less than 10% of Americans were obese. In 1975, that number spiked to 15%, and today it is estimated at 32%. Among children, the obesity rate has tripled over the past 30 years. It currently sits at 25% for people under 19. While this is startling, consider the fact that $150 billion will be spent each year on obesity-related illnesses, and on average, Americans spend more money on fast food than on higher education, computers, and new cars combined. While this money can be spent on more productive means, too much of it goes to the fast food industry, which actually contributes to an increase in cancer patients. In 2009, the National Research Council found that more than half of the cancers diagnosed that year were cancers of prostate, lung, and colon, which are the direct result of high-fat diets.
Throughout the history of the fast food industry, one chain in particular, McDonald's, has become the perfect example of the success that fast food can bring. Its first location in San Bernardino, California, which opened in 1945, aimed to streamline the process of making food and to reduce the costs of production. With the additional reduction in operating costs by eliminating waitresses, McDonald's grossed $270,000 by 1951, which was unheard of at the time for any small restaurant. By 1960, there were 100 franchises operating across the country. McDonald's, in addition to other fast food businesses like Burger King and Wendy's, led to the rapid fast food takeover. By 1990, there were 11,800 McDonald's locations, 6,298 Burger Kings, and 3,721 Wendy's. Today, more than 160,000 fast food restaurants feed more than 50 million Americans each day, generating sales of over $110 billion annually. Fast food chains have achieved great success very quickly, and numerous franchises are now part of multinational corporate giants like Yum! Brands, which owns Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, A&W, Long John Silver's, and KFC. The sudden rise and dominance of fast food restaurants has changed the food supply chain all the way down to the farmer. For example, McDonald's quickly became the single largest buyer of beef, pork, potatoes, and apples in the U.S., giving them tremendous economic power. In addition, the fast food industry is the largest employer of minimum wage workers in the United States. The food is prepared in enormous central kitchens, with flavors coming from chemical plants along the New Jersey Turnpike, allowing these empires to stand on top of huge industrial complexes that have destroyed the family farm, creating industrial farms with corporate owners in its place. Since the early 1970s, American fast food franchises have expanded into international markets, largely a result of business people in other nations wanting to bring the American concept to their own country. Today, some of the most well-known brands in the fast food industry have a greater number of locations outside of the U.S. than they do domestically. For example, there are 14,344 McDonald's within the U.S. and 21,914 restaurants internationally. And of the 19,420 KFCs in operation, 15,029 of them are located outside the U.S. At Burger King, the number of global and domestic restaurants is nearly the same, and the number of international Pizza Hut restaurants is catching up quickly to the number of domestic ones. In 1987, Yum! Brands became the first fast food chain to enter China, and McDonald's followed in 1990. Today, China represents about 1/3 of Yum's sales in operating profit, and McDonald's gets about 60% of its sales outside the U.S. The secret for success in the global market of fast food is embracing and engaging consumers in each culture that franchises enter. The chains offer a taste of the classic American menu, but find the most success by adapting their menus and ingredients to meet the taste preferences of the local consumers. Figuring out how to adjust traditional favorites for local preferences has become a crucial part of the franchise industry. More chains are expanding overseas, so franchisors have invested heavily in studying local customs and tastes to source new ingredients. They've also used numerous marketing and logistical strategies, such as figuring out when to adapt familiar items and when to introduce entirely new ones that better fit the market, as well as how to create affordable menus for less affluent countries. For example, the marketing strategy behind McDonald's global expansion is simple. They provide uniformity throughout every market they enter, while still meeting the preferences of each individual culture. For instance, the iconic Big Mac is available everywhere, but in the Philippines, the mixed spaghetti is also on the menu, and the Teritama burger and Tsukimi burger are offered in Japan.